Smile.
But I'm not happy.
People
Why are you
are
staring?
I don't want to do this.
You have to. They'll know
No one
something's
cares
wrong.
about your
Why
life.
is that bad?
Nobody
cares. They won't understand.
Nobody
I want to go
cares.
home. You'll hurt their feelings.
This was ridiculous.
What are we even talking about? Just
you want to
keep
keep
them
them
happy.
happy.
What if they
They're
think
gonna
you're
be mean.
stupid?
Just keep them happy.
Just keep them happy.
Just lie.
I'm not here to sugarcoat, life's already a bumpy road. Too much shelter causes pain, let's just be real honest. Things are gonna knock you down, avoidance will not help you out. Let's talk it through, here me and you, let's keep it real honest.
Hey, welcome to Real Honest. This is a podcast where I share candid thoughts and feelings about life, love, and relationships, God and church, adulting, the workplace, and all the things in between. I'm your host. My name is Samantha, and you probably won't always like me, but I will always be honest with you. Happy 2026, friends. I know that we are days away from February. Actually, I just had to pause and look at the calendar because I'm not sure if I'm releasing this the week that I'm recording or the week after. So you might be listening to this in February, at which point it feels kind of late to be saying happy 2026. But you guys, I got the flu and my period on the same day last month. So the last week of December and the first 2 weeks of January were rough, to say the least. And I just got back into breathing normally to where I could do any semblance of a workout routine the third week of January, and it's currently the last week of January, and I still have an annoying cough. My energy is not all the way back, it's mostly back, and it's time for my period again, and I'm just oh my gosh, it's in the longest month of my life. But I will say that being sick for so long has been kind of great. It's been a great way to start the year, and it's been really great for my relationship with God, because I feel like part of what God has been teaching me in the past year, I will say, has been a lot about how every single thing that I do does not have to be about God for God to care about it. Meaning my job doesn't have to be in a church. The book that I'm writing doesn't have to be a story about faith. I don't have to be talking about God with every friend or family member that I have in order for those relationships and work and activities to still be meaningful and for God to still be a part of them. I've been trying to incorporate a regular gratitude practice into my routine for probably the past 3 years now. And starting the year sick really, really helped with that, because I was just sitting here thanking God for the simplest of things. As soon as I got the congestion under control and I could smell things again, I was sitting here oh my gosh, God, what a blessing it is to smell food, to smell a candle, thanking him for a hot shower and the fact that I live alone and nobody was waiting in line to use the shower and it's just mine and I could sit in the hot shower for as long as I wanted, and I'm just so beyond grateful for that. I also have the planner I'm using this year. It has a little space to write what I'm grateful for every week. I'm trying to write something every day, and that has also made me think about my sermon notebook. I take notes every Sunday while I'm watching church, but I almost never go back and read it. And so this year I was going to stop taking notes during the sermon, because I was what's the point? I'm sitting here writing things down, but I don't ever go back and read through them. And so I took some time while I was sick to read through my sermon notes. And part of how I take notes is I don't usually write down what the pastor is saying. I write down what I feel like the Holy Spirit is speaking to me through the pastor's message. So, the pastor might say something it's not too late for you to realize something that you have dreamed about for a long time that you really feel was planted by God. And so instead of writing down that sentence, I will write down what is something that I feel has been planted and blessed by God, a gift that he gave me, a dream that I have not yet realized, that I've given up on. And then I'll write down whatever that thing is, and then I'll write a little prayer or something like that. And it feels crazy how often I forget what these things even are. The current sermon notebook that I have, it dates back to 2022. So I went all the way back to the beginning when I started using this notebook and just read through all the things that I'd written down. And I had different colored highlighters so I could highlight if there were any themes that jumped out at me or things that I wrote down multiple times. My pastor says often that if you are stuck, if you feel like you're not hearing from God, you should always go back to the most recent thing that you clearly heard him tell you to do. And if you haven't done that, then do that. And then usually you'll get your next step from him or whatever it is. And I have been talking about writing this book since 2022. And I feel like, I mean, I've wanted to be an author since I was a little kid, but just over the years, in terms of like a time in my life that I have consistently worked on it and like wanted to keep the dream alive, and it's been like a regular goal of mine, probably started like early 2023 is when I was like, this is the year that I'm going to finish it. And then it was 24, and then it was 25, and haha, now it's 2026. But what was interesting in going back through this is that working on like getting my book finished and trying to get it published has been something that I have consistently been praying about and trying to work on for many, many years now. But there are so many other things that I have put before it. So like first it was volunteering with my church, and I got to a point, I told you guys already on here about how I stepped back from that about 6 months ago, but for the past few years, like I was spending more hours volunteering with my church than I was spending on the actual job that pays me. And it just like, I got super burnt out. It was way too much time. But then also during that time, I went to seminary, which I only went to for a year and a half, but it was still another thing that was taking a ton of time. That was also taking a ton of money. It was taking a ton of energy. Or like I was adding things to the small group that I lead, where instead of pulling back and being like, maybe we should meet every other week, I was like, oh, let's meet twice a week, because Saturdays we're going to do the Bible study, and Sundays we have book club or movie club or whatever else is going on. So even though I've been wanting to work on writing my book for so many years, 2026 is now the first year that I don't have any volunteer work lined up. I'm not in school. I'm not trying to lead 500 different things. My hours have been cut at work, which thankfully I still work I'm working the minimum hours to like keep benefits and everything, which is great, but it's still less than I'm used to, which is freeing up a lot more time. And so I'm like, okay, this is finally a year that I actually can prioritize writing this book over all the other things. So moving into my first goals check-in of the year, so far, at least right now, look, things can change in a week and a month, I don't know, but at least for the start of the year, I am going into 2026 with one goal, and that is to complete the first draft of my book and start querying, which, if you're unfamiliar, that's the name for the process of pitching your book to agents and publishers and editors. This is not to say that I'm absolutely going to work on nothing else and have no other goals, because that's just not realistic. And I know that I have talked about on here a lot about how I get kind of paralyzed by all of the different options, where anytime it's like a Saturday and I finish my small group and then I have the rest of the afternoon, I'm like, oh, what should I do? Like, should I call a friend? Should I go out to eat? Should I write? Should I read? Should I play The Sims? And so basically what I'm trying to do is anytime that I have that free window, the default is going to be, I'm going to write before I spin in circles trying to decide what to do. But I'm also going to be very cognizant of the fact that I'm probably not going to write every day. I've tried to do that before and it has not worked for me. Jay Shetty did a goals podcast earlier this year, and a sentence he said that I really liked was that you won't rise to the level of your goals, you will fall to the level of your systems. And essentially he goes through the whole episode. He talks through the process of how a lot of people have these like a lot of ambition and big lofty goals, but if you have no systems in place to actually get the thing done, then it's not going to happen. And it's more important that you have some system in place, whether that is a schedule or an accountability partner or whatever it is that you like, a budget, whatever it is that you need to push you toward achieving your goal. Like having the goal in itself is not enough, which I do agree with. So kind of my learning from that has been to figure out what is the best system for me to get this book written. And I have tried like blocking my time. I've tried to-do lists and figuring this and that. The thing that I have found that has been most helpful is that I don't schedule
specific writing time. I more schedule time to work on the book, which includes thinking, because obviously there's a lot of thinking and planning involved with novels. And I don't like to just sit and workshop things. I like to have the whole scene ready to go in my head so I can just sit down and put words on paper. So for example, yesterday, I think I sat for maybe 3.5 hours and I got just under 3,000 words written in that time. And that was because Sunday, Saturday, and Friday, each of those days, I went on a walk for like 30 minutes and I spent the whole time walking, planning out this scene that I ended up writing on Monday. I try to talk about my book way more often in conversation with people because I feel bad when like my friends ask if I've been working on it or there's an update and there is none. And I hate repeating myself. So I would rather be able to say like, oh yeah, here's where I've gotten since the last time I talked to you, aside from like, nope, still there. But this is also not to say that I don't have a single other goal for the year. So I want to be clear about that too. There's still all of the regular like health and fitness goals, financial goals, all of that stuff that I still have. But instead of trying to build a plan and a system for all of them, I am focused on my plan and my system to get this book written. And when that is done, I will move on to the next thing. So it's kind of like if I have a free window of time, then automatically that free window of time is going to go to writing. But sometimes if I'm not ready to like sit down and write a scene, I might be like, okay, well, if I work out right now, I can think more about this while I do that. And then that's still an efficient use of the time. Or if I'm going to sit and watch TV or I'm going to read a book, I'm reading the book thinking about the way that it's structured and the way that the author has approached character and story to see how that can inform mine. And then same thing when I watch TV is I'm really, really focused on the structure and the story and how certain beats happen so that that can inform my own writing. The other thing that I have found helpful is pulling back on other creative projects so that all of my creativity, well, not all, but most of my creativity can go to my book. So for example, I haven't been writing music or working on music at all. I paused this podcast for a little bit, primarily because I was sick and my voice was disgusting and I was not going to subject anyone to listening to that. But also because if you guys noticed, like for the past maybe 3-4 months, I was testing out recording like a video component of this so that I could put clips on social media to help promote it and stuff like that, which it was successful, but it's an additional thing to edit. It's an additional thing to record. It was taking more time and I'm really looking to get myself back as much time as I want. So I was gonna my original plan for 2026 was I was gonna do full video version of the podcast on YouTube. And then I was like, that's just not my priority right now. So basically anything that was taking extra time and extra energy like that, I'm reverting back to this is going to be audio only. I'm just releasing it on all the podcast platforms. I'm not going to put a whole lot of energy into marketing and promoting the podcast right now because it's just not my current priority. Also, I think those changes are going to help me get back to weekly. And I was, that's what I was deciding between was, am I going to do the podcast every other week or every other month so that I can do all the marketing and all the things that I want to do? Or can I just go back to audio only and get it back to weekly? So that's also a goal. We'll see if it happens. But I would love to hear what you guys are working on for 2026. What are your goals? If you have not set goals for 2026, it is not too late. It's only the first month of the year, and you don't even have to set goals for the year. You can set them quarterly, weekly, monthly, daily. You can wake up and just be like, what do I want to get done today? So I would be curious to hear where you guys are in the process, if that's something you're doing, what systems you're putting in place to help you, if there's anything that I could do that would be helpful. My small group does meet at the end of every month to reflect on our goals from the previous month and to set goals for the upcoming month. And we have different prompts that we go through to do that process. So if that's something that would be helpful, feel free to reach out and you can join us on Zoom. So I titled today's episode after the Taylor Swift lyric, "I'm so sick of running as fast as I can," because I felt like that lyric really captures the burnout that I was feeling probably mid to late 2025, where it just was still trying to do too much. And I did pull back from a lot of things in the midpoint of the year, but it was because I hit a point toward the end of 2024 and then the beginning of 2025 that I was just feeling angry more often than anything else and just was tired more often than anything else because there were so many things that I was doing. So I started to pull back from a lot of stuff, but it was already past the point of no return. So I really had to pull back from everything and like just lay down and do nothing for multiple weeks. And I hate to lay down and do nothing. So then I was angry about that. And I think just like this, the day and age that we live in the culture of like productivity, and we have to be working towards something every second of every day in order to be successful and to fulfill our dreams and to make our time feel like it's worth it, is just so exhausting. And so I have my small group right now is doing a study on Sabbath, which you may or may not be familiar with. It's, on the seventh day, God rested. And so we're all supposed to rest on the seventh day. And to a lot of people, they take that to just mean don't work 7 days in a row, like always take a day off. And most jobs have a built-in 2 days off. But the study that we're doing goes a lot deeper than that. It talks about how to be countercultural, like in a culture that is always on, like always online, always available. Can we turn off our phones for a full 24-hour period? And beyond resting, as in just not working, can we make that day that we choose every single week, can we make that a true day of delight? And of course, this is a biblical study, so it's talking about making it a day of worship, a day where you enjoy what you've worked for and enjoy your blessings from God and enjoy God's creation. But if you're not a Christian or you don't believe in God or you just don't care about that, can you take a day every week to enjoy the things that you've worked for, right? Like if your job is affording you a home or an apartment or whatever, can you take that rest day to really appreciate the space that you have and the food that you have and just kind of turn it into a day of gratitude? Because when you focus on that, it makes it so much easier to go back to work versus feeling like, oh, I worked, I'm tired, I napped and I watched TV for the weekend and now I'm like dreading getting back to it again. But if you can flip that mentality to be like, I'm working for a reason, for a purpose. And of course, that's different to everyone, right? Some people really love their jobs and they're working because they love what they do. Most of us, I would guess, are probably working because we have to work to live. But again, it's like I'm working to pay a mortgage. So I am like so grateful that I have worked and I was able to pay my mortgage. And on the days that I'm resting, I'm sitting here looking around like, wow, I have a house. That's amazing. I'm so excited to be here and to have this. And I'm so grateful for it. And I'm going to go into work next week with a positive heart and attitude because I'm working to be able to continue to enjoy my home. This like need to run and the go, go, go and the always on mentality of like, we're connected to anyone immediately through our phones. Like, I try really hard to use all of the different focus settings that iPhone has to make sure that like if I'm doing a specific activity that I can't get notifications. And what I has found is like if I don't see the notification come in, then I don't get that rush of anxiety. And I used to like if I work out in the middle of the day, like say I'm doing yoga and I get a message from my boss on Slack, I used to pause the video and I would run downstairs and jump on my computer to like see what he asked for to make sure I could respond to him right away. And now I make sure that my phone automatically goes on Do Not Disturb if the Peloton app is open, because I'm never taking a yoga class that is longer than an hour. Usually I'm doing 30 minutes. So I am just like, there's nothing that my boss could ever ask me for that cannot wait 30 minutes. And sometimes he did need something urgently and the ping said like, hey, can you jump in a meeting? And 30 or 45 minutes, whenever I see it, I say, I can jump in a meeting now. I don't even bother to say, sorry, I missed this. Oh my gosh, I was doing yoga, because I don't need to. I'm like, I'm seeing the message when I'm seeing it. And I'm like, who cares if it doesn't matter if I was doing yoga or if I was on the phone. I could have been in a different work meeting working. And if I was doing that, my phone would also have been on do not disturb, and I still would have missed the message. So whatever it is, it's like, and it never ends up being that urgent. If like a friend texts me and I respond to them an hour or a day later versus 5 minutes, it never makes a difference. Like, we still have the same conversation. Now, if I'm regularly ignoring the texts and I'm responding to them like weeks or months later on a consistent basis, well, then it's a problem. We're not having the conversation. But that's different from what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about being less hurried and more intentional about your time. My hard conversation this week, I think, really has more been with myself and me in trying to talk to myself about letting go of a need to give people explanations or excuses. So when it comes to something like, for example, my church, because it's global, has watch parties, which is like a local family will open up their home during one of the service times on Sundays for people to come watch it in their living room, because we don't have a physical campus of our church in the area. So we can still like gather and kind of have church somewhere. And for me, as somebody who leads in the church, and I've been like leading a small group for however many years, it infuriates me when people don't show up and don't tell me they're not coming. And I really don't care why they're not coming. I never would ask for an excuse or a reason, but I just would want to know that they're not coming, because if all of the members are going to not come on the same day, I can repurpose the time to do something else. So I do make a point to always tell the leaders of this watch party whether or not I'm going to be there. But I also feel compelled to tell them why I'm not going to be there, because they host this every single week and I only go like once a month. So I'm always telling them like, I'm out of town, or I lead a book club, which is also on Sundays at the same time. So and that's only once a month. So the week that happens, I'm not here. And I'm just keep having to coach myself to be like, all you have to say is I'm not coming, period. It's not anybody's business why. Sometimes at work, people genuinely miss messages and somebody has to follow up with them. It doesn't really change anything to say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I was working on something else, I was in a meeting, I didn't see this come through. Like, if the person still has the question and they still need you to do it, then respond to it whenever you get it, to be like, I'm on it right now. And I think a lot of this like need to give excuses or like some type of justification is because I feel like it has to be worth it to the person I'm telling why I'm not there or why I haven't done the thing yet. Like, I feel like for example, I feel like if I were in a work meeting and that's why I didn't respond to my boss right away, then that would be an acceptable reason to him. But if it's because I was doing yoga, it probably wouldn't be an acceptable reason. The truth is that either of them are acceptable reasons, but they also don't matter. Like, if he's ever saying, hey, can we jump in a call? It's not most of the time, it's not because something is urgent. It's just because he needs to talk about something and he has a free moment. So he's asking when he's free, and I do not have to be free at the same time. Like, I can totally respond and say, here's a window of time that I'm free later. And it's the same thing where it honestly does not matter if I am out of town or I'm leading book club, or if I'm on my couch and I just don't feel like driving to the watch party that week. It just matters that I'm not going to be there. Like, all the leaders need to know is that I'm not going to be there. So if they're going to buy food or whatever, they don't count me as one of the people that's going to be consuming it. And I think this has also helped me have more hard conversations in the friend space, just kind of about how different we are and like what different people need and what different people want. Like, I have friends who kind of fall off the map when they get sick, which I don't understand, because I was sitting there and like when I was sick for 2.5 weeks, and the whole time that I was sick, like I didn't have enough energy to work out. I didn't have enough energy. Like, I could only work for like 2 hours at a time, like really focused, because I just kept getting headaches and like body aches and stuff. So like really all I could do was lay on the couch and watch TV, and my phone was right next to me. So like if anyone texted me, I could respond to them, and nobody was really trying to have like intellectual, mentally stimulating conversation. They were mostly talking about the snow or the holidays or whatever was going on. And so, but that made me really frustrated, because I was sitting there like, it's not hard to keep up your relationships when you're sick. Like, what's going on? But also being able to pull back and be able to say, like, it's not hard for me. Like, just because it was not difficult for me to still have all the same conversations that I was having, I'm used to recording voice notes with most of my friends, and I was so stuffy, I didn't want to subject them to that. So I was texting a whole lot more, and that did take more time. But again, that's me. Like, a lot of other people treat illness totally differently, and they are fully like, phone is under a pillow somewhere, and they have to be like asleep as much as possible for the whole 2 weeks or whatever it is. So they're not interested in like having conversations with people unless they're feeling well and up to it. And so I think that was also like just a hard conversation for me to have with some people from where I started it from, like, this isn't hard, like, why can't you do this? And them being like, I'm not you, and being like, yeah, you're right. Moving on to what I'm watching right now. So I just had my first screening of the year last week, and it was Mercy, which is Chris Pratt and Rebecca Ferguson. She's like an AI, and he's a detective that's accused of killing his wife, and he has to go to this like AI court, and he gets like 90 minutes to defend himself or the thing kills him. I thought it was really interesting. All the critics hated it. Typically, like, January is not a time for like big blockbuster releases. It's like typically if the movie's coming out in January, it's because it's not expected to do well. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a good time. It's not an Oscar winner, it's not that type of movie. It's not trying to be. I think it's a solid like action thriller if that's what you're into. If you like the AI stuff, if you're scared of AI, I think it'll be, creepy enough. I thought it was fun. The thing about doing like the screenings is that, I'm there with the critics, like people that like really want like an Oscar winning like art film with like a really deep script and like a really good cast and excellent performances and all this stuff. And like, that's just not what every movie is. And it's so funny because I feel like I keep texting friends after I go to screenings, and I'm like, I think that I'm the only one here that actually likes movies, like just enjoys movies for like the pleasure of watching a movie. So I feel like Mercy is one of those that like it's for fun. It's something to like throw on and enjoy. I don't think it's trying to win awards. Other than that, I am of course watching the new season of Tell Me Lies, even though it gives me severe anxiety. I just feel like it's so hard to watch. It makes me so uncomfortable every single week, but I also can't turn it off. I'm like, somebody get Lucy a therapist. Like, she needs so much help. I can't handle it. It's driving me insane, but I also love it. So, and if you watch Tell Me Lies and you love it, I don't recommend the book. I did read the book that it was based off of, and I thought the book was fine. I think I rated it like 3 out of 5 stars, but the show it's kind of like Degrassi. It goes there. The show goes there, and the book kind of just like scratches the surface of these people. But if you like kind of the basic premise of the toxic relationship and the time jump to see like what happened all those years later, but the show is too much for you, then I do recommend the book. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully there will be new episodes on Wednesdays at 6 a.m. Central. If you have questions, comments, concerns, or you want to chat, send me an email at realhonestpod@gmail.com. I really would love to hear what goals you're working on for the year, what you're learning from God. If you're a Christian, if you have a different religion and a different deity and you want to tell me what you're learning from them, feel free. If you are a-religious and you're just learning things about yourself, I would also be interested in hearing that. Always open to having conversations that are helping all of us think differently and learn and grow as people. Okay, bye.
I'm not here to sugarcoat, life's already a bumpy road. Too much shelter causes pain, let's just be real honest. Things are gonna knock you down, avoidance will not help you out. Let's talk it through, hear me and you, let's keep it real honest.